The day began like every other heavy morning in the Whitmore mansion, where silence weighed more than wealth and sorrow clung to the polished walls like an unspoken curse, and Alexander Whitmore, once a titan of industry feared and admired across boardrooms and headlines, now sat confined to his wheelchair near the kitchen island, staring at the sunlight he could no longer chase, his legs lifeless reminders of the accident that stole not only his ability to walk but also his faith, his laughter, and his belief that life still had anything left to offer him, while the housekeeper, Maria, moved quietly around the kitchen, careful not to disturb the fragile mood that ruled the mansion, her footsteps soft, her eyes lowered, knowing that one wrong sound could shatter the men who once owned the world. But that morning, something different followed her, small bare footsteps padding softly across the wooden floor, her daughter Lily, only 6 years old, innocent eyes wide with wonder, clutching her mother's hand before letting go and stepping forward without fear, as if guided by something unseen, something stronger than reason. And Alexander noticed her not because she made noise, but because for the first time in years, someone looked at him without pity, without calculation, without fear, and before Maria could stop her, Lily stood right in front of the wheelchair, her tiny hands folded together, her voice soft but clear as morning bells, and she said the words that froze the air itself, "Sir, kneel down and pray with me, and you will walk again," causing Maria's breath to catch in her throat, terror flashing across her face as she rushed forward, fearing anger, punishment, dismissal, because no one spoke to Alexander Whitmore like that, especially not a child of a maid, but instead of fury, something else broke inside him, something old and forgotten, because Lily's eyes held no mockery, only absolute certainty, and for reasons he could not explain, Alexander felt tears rise uninvited, his hands trembling as he pressed them together like he remembered doing as a boy before wealth replaced belief, and he whispered bitterly that he could not kneel, not anymore, to which Lily simply smiled and said kneeling wasn't about legs, it was about the heart, and she gently placed her tiny hand on his knee as if it were already alive, as if she could feel something he could not, and the kitchen, once cold and silent, seemed to breathe again as Alexander closed his eyes, letting the child lead the prayer, her words simple, clumsy, pure, asking God to help them and stand, not because he was rich, but because he was sad, and in that moment, memories flooded Alexander's mind, of his late wife praying at night, of promises he never kept, of love he traded for ambition, and the tears he had held back for years finally fell freely, soaking into his clasped hands as Maria watched in stunned silence, her knees weak, her heart pounding, because she felt it too. That unexplainable shift, that warmth spreading through the room like dawn after a long winter, and when the prayer ended, nothing miraculous happened immediately, no thunder, no sudden movement, just a quiet peace Alexander hadn't felt since before the accident, but Lily squeezed his hand and said with childlike confidence that walking starts inside before it reaches the legs, and then she skipped away, leaving behind a millionaire shattered not by loss, but by hope, and from that day forward, something changed. Alexander asked Maria about Lily, about her faith, about how she could believe so easily in a world that had given her so little, and Maria spoke of nights without food, of prayers whispered through tears, of trusting God when there was no other choice, and Alexander listened, truly listened, for the first time in years, and days turned into weeks as Lily visited him every morning before school, praying with him, talking to him, reminding him that miracles grow slowly like seeds, unseen until they break through the soil, and Alexander began therapy again, not because doctors told him to, but because a little girl believed he could walk, and slowly, painfully, progress came, a toe twitch, a muscle responding, sensation returning like a whisper, and when the doctors were stunned, Alexander only smiled through tears, knowing the real healing had started long before the nerves reawakened, and the day finally came when he stood, trembling, supported by bars and hands and prayers, Lily cheering louder than anyone, her faith unshaken even when his legs shook, and when he took his first step, the room erupted in disbelief and joy, but Alexander fell to his knees not from weakness, but from gratitude, kneeling fully now, something he once said he could never do again, crying not as a broken man, but as a redeemed one, and in front of everyone, he hugged Lily and Maria, thanking them not for making him walk, but for teaching him how to believe again, and Alexander Whitmore's miracle didn't end with his steps, because he changed his life, funding shelters, supporting single mothers, building a foundation in Lily's name, not to honor himself, but to honor the faith of a child who saw past his wealth and wheelchair and into his wounded soul. And as the story spread, people asked Alexander what really healed him, the therapy or the prayer, and he always answered the same way, saying therapy strengthened his legs, but faith taught him how to stand. And now, as you listen to this story, remember that miracles don't always come from power or money, sometimes they come from the smallest voices, the purest hearts, and if this story touched you, if it reminded you that hope can rise even in the darkest places, then don't forget to subscribe to this channel, because every story we share is meant to awaken faith, heal hearts, and remind you that no matter how broken life feels, your miracle might be just one prayer away.